Thanks for tuning in to another All the Feelings joint.
Want to skip those pesky ads and get early access?
Become a member at allthefeelings.fun/join and discover all the other great perks that come with it.
Jazz.
All the Feelings presents
Still Adulting.
this episode.
Hobbies and brain stuff.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to All the Feelings, adulting, with your dear neighborhood friends, Pete and Tom. I'm Pete, that's Tom. Hi, Tom.
Hello. Thank you for having us. Thank you for joining us, everybody. 11:08, feeling great.
What? Well, there's another thing. 11:08, feeling great. That's you probably invented that.
I did not. Actually, my mom, when I was growing up, my mother, when she would invite people to my birthday party, she would always make a rhyme. And she would say, life is great, T is 8, or feeling fine, T is 9. And so whenever I hear numbers.
Okay, you have a built-in rhyme.
I have a built-in
in your brain
mnemonic thing because that's what I was grown up on. Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
It was tough because I went to when I was growing up, I went to a real fancy pants bow tie private school.
Bow tie?
No, but might as well have been. Like everyone was wearing slacks and not uniforms, but very fancy. And it was very far away from where we lived. This was like the big splurge that my parents did. This is before we had money. And so none of my friends lived nearby. And I had a summer birthday. My birthday's in August. And so it was really hard to get people to come to my party because usually kids are on summer break and they're gone. Yeah. And my mom thought that this complex rhyme structure
would make you happier.
Was the bait that was needed to get someone to walk it off the street and blow up, whatever those things are called. Yeah, it sort of worked.
Oh, man. The saddest party. It's like an XTC song. I don't know what to do with that. But I do like that mnemonic sticks with you because we're talking about stuff regarding the brain today and things that we've learned, given that we are, neither one of us, neuroscientists. This ought to be fascinating. Oh, were you going to challenge me on that?
Well, not a scientist. Okay, no. Yes. We are neuro dum-dums. Yes. So I would love to hear what you're talking about. What is your topic in this grab bag of a season?
Well, I'm going to be talking about learning new things as an adult, and specifically what your brain is doing as we get older and older and older. And because I've learned some things recently as a neuro dum-dum that have really challenged the way that I think about my own brain. And I'm very excited about the next X number of years.
Outstanding. Take it away, please.
Subset 1.
Learning new things as an adult.
Tom, I've been recording these. I don't know if you know this. This is not cheating, but I do have other podcasts.
So many podcasts.
I think you know about these because you've been on one of them, and that is Taking Control, the ADHD podcast. You're familiar with that.
I am. I do not have ADHD, but I've been an honored guest.
Yes. And we have been doing a selection of interviews about aging and ADHD, but along the way, I've uncovered some folks that have really changed the way that I think about my brain and what my brain is doing. And this all comes sort of wrapped up in the bloomin' onion of how do we stay active and thoughtful and alert as we adult and as we get older. And we've heard it. I know we say it, right? Like, oh, we're in our 50s now. That's right. I said it. And there is, how many times have you started integrating or hearing other people, your peers saying things like senior moments, like, oh man, there's that dementia creeping in, right? Those kinds of things. I make
jokes about sundowning a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Or
you are
sundowning,
yes.
Or like falling asleep in a sunbeam. That's what I did. That's what I did last week.
We talk about it around the house. My wife says, as long as you can just put me, if I get dementia, put me in front of a window and make sure there are birds. Oh, and also I'd like to play the tambourine in a dementia band. So, yeah. And so we're planning hardcore, like trying to get our people together before we forget that there are people.
Yeah.
And so we've talked to these folks who remind me things that challenge assumptions I was given when I was a youth that are crazy. So get a load of this. This is one of the big lies that we were sold. Until roughly the early 1990s, neuroscience, like practitioners, taught that you were born with every brain cell you will ever have. And aging, therefore, is the long, slow subtraction of brain cells. That was consensus. Are you familiar with this?
That sounds right. I mean, I can tell by context clues that that's not correct, but if you told me right now that's what you looked up and that's what is, like, I would think that, yeah, like kind of a snake shedding its skin, like we're all just slowly losing faculties. Sure.
Right.
I would think that makes sense.
Me too. And it was in all the textbooks. It was everywhere. So we had this woman on the show whose name is Dr. Kathleen Nadeau. She has been studying this stuff for 50 years. Her next birthday, she's going to be 80. And I mean, she doesn't come across as a day older than 55, man. She is sharp as a tack. I am humbled at how imposing this woman is. And she said, I was taught in graduate school this exact thing, that you were born with all the brain cells you're ever going to have. This was graduate school in the 70s and 80s. And that's it. And the truth is, we did not know what we were talking about at all. And
Is
this
part of that
is
because
why
the brain is kind of like such a black box still?
Yeah.
Like the two black boxes are the brain and the ocean.
Yeah.
I feel like we have no idea what's really going on there.
Right.
Yeah.
Why not the ocean, man? I want to drive my car into the ocean, right? Yeah, just like James Bond, in and out of the ocean. That's what I want.
So the car's made for it. Because I want to wear my heaviest coat into the ocean, but that's for a very different reason.
Okay. Anyhow, ocean, unexplored territory. Back to brains. What she said was every adult who stopped trying new things, who decided that they were past the learning years, who felt super embarrassed picking up a beginner guitar at age 47, was operating on this specific scientific framework that has been thrown in the trash, and they have never been educated beyond it. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear where I'm going?
What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of this guitar? I'm a dummy.
Yeah. I'm never going to be able to learn this guitar.
Sure.
And so we absorbed this message, right? And it shows up. It's that like ongoing sort of insidious shame of what it feels like to be a beginner as a grown adult. That sense that we've learned everything we could learn by the time we were 25 or 30, and now we're kind of done. So we just use what we've accumulated in our lives and just stop. And we sort of preemptively apologize when we're not as good at something as a child who is learning it right now today and is super spongy and awesome and agile, and their joints aren't fused and they don't have back pain and all of that stuff. So I find that really interesting. What her take is that it is the act of conceding to this mentality that actually causes you to stop developing new brain cells. Right?
Oh, wait. Because it takes the spark to keep the spark.
It takes the spark to keep the spark. It's a spark and a spark.
Yep.
Yeah. And so if you think I'm too old to learn to play the guitar at 47 or 57 or 67, Tom,
it's a self-fulfilling
you will
prophecy.
be.
Right.
You will be. You hear that? That was a Yoda thing.
Oh.
You wouldn't know that. I forget.
I can't learn about Yoda. I'm old. Okay.
Okay, let's talk about brain-derived neurotropic factor. Are you ready for this?
We would. Absolutely.
Brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF. This is, you do 20 minutes of vigorous exercise, right? Say you're doing your Foster walk and you do some jumping jacks along the way, and you get your heart rate up for a little bit for 20 minutes, and that'll cause your brain to produce this BDNF, the brain-derived neurotropic factor. Catherine Nadeau calls this the miracle grow for the brain. Okay. And you control its production. It literally grows new dendritic connections between neurons. It activates and expands your dendrites. When you learn something, you are not just absorbing new information. You're building physical architecture in your brain. The tissue is changing. New dendrites, new wiring, and you are fostering growth. The more you learn, the more you will be able to learn because your brain will be more agile in the process. What? It is practically absurd that exists, and I hadn't ever been thinking about it.
And more importantly, if you ever want to get back into dating, you'll be giving off really big BDNF energy. which I don't know if you know, but chicks really dig.
Chicks dig BDNF.
BDNF energy, yeah.
So gross that it went there. Anyway, you can this is what's fantastic, right? Let's say you want to learn something new. You're about to do your your Duolingo, right? You want to learn some new verbs, some new words and conjugations and such and so. You can chemically prepare your brain to learn those things with 20 minutes of vigorous exercise right before you press the app, right before you launch it.
So it's not mental exercising. It's physical exercise.
Physical exercise. Yeah.
That's really
interesting. The correct learning strategy is this. Tom, 1, go outside. 2, suffer briefly. 3, come back and try to figure out your taxes or your Duolingo or whatever new skill it is you want to do. That triumvirate, that trio of activities, right? Go outside, exercise vigorously, come back in and start your project is the thing that's going to prepare you to internalize new stuff. It's just it. That's it. Your brain is ready for it. You just have to activate it.
Are you also supposed to do mental exercises, though? Because I thought that was very chic, or still is, like having older people do puzzles and Wordle and stuff. That I thought that was a big part of it, too. I'm wondering, are they equal or...
Well... Yes, I'm not going to say equal. All I'm saying is your brain is, if you're just doing that, your brain is not completely primed to actually learn new things.
It's not warmed up.
Right. And that's why, like, we have to look at our brains and our bodies as a complete system. And your brain, we tend to give up on our brain and try to do these, like, well, I'm just going to do more crosswords and think that's all that's going to do it. But the brain is much more complicated than just needing crosswords. And I just never,
Makes
like,
sense.
I think of exercise as the physical thing. It's about the musculoskeletal system. It's about the respiratory system. It's about the metabolic system. And I never connect it to the brain, to the neurologic system. And it turns out it is absolutely front and center of all of that process. Okay.
What,
do you have a question for the class?
Is there a certain type of exercise, or it's just vigorous exercise?
Vigorous exercise,
getting your heart
20
up.
minutes. Yep.
Got it. All right.
Yep.
I'll write that down.
Okay. 20. I'll let you scratch that Post-it. All right. Perfect. Now, let's talk about memory. Memory is a big part of this. Okay. What is your current sort of worldview about your personal memory performance?
What was the question again? I'm very adept at remembering things that don't seem to come in handy.
Okay. That's
so
useful.
I have a very good memory, but it's not the things that I would choose to keep front and center. And so I don't, but also we've talked about things. I'm also actively, I think, hurting my memory and hurting things like how I use Waze or Google Maps incessantly. So I'm losing my sense of direction. I don't remember, like, sometimes places that I go twice a month, that if you were like, step outside, leave your phone at home and go there, I might just walk into the sun because I just don't, I'm not using my memory to recharge that stuff. Does that help answer your question at all?
It does. And this is how my perspective changed on memory. And it actually gives me, I think, some forgiveness of the shame I feel because I'm in exactly the same boat you are, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Dr. Daniela Caridi, she's a research psychologist. She researches specifically memory. She's got her PhD from Northwestern. She's like the real deal. And she starts a conversation with me by saying, all right, look, forgetfulness is the default of the system.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? We are not designed to remember things incidentally. Forgetfulness is the default of the system. Think about that.
Is it because it's more important to remember, like, is that a tiger? Can that eat me?
Yes.
Is
exactly
fire,
right.
Fire hurt? Okay, got
right.
it. So it's primal.
Yes, the brain compresses everything that is not flagged as survivor critical. Right?
Sure.
Everything else is and so the way she puts it is this: you don't generally remember what you had for dinner on May 12th, 1999, because your brain filed that under dinner, generic. That's not failure. That's good architecture, right? We don't need to remember that stuff. So the problem for adult learners is not memory decay, right? Our memory might be working just fine, assuming a neuronormative kind of brain architecture that you're not already, as you love to say, sundowning. If you're just dealing with the general progress of aging, your memory might just be fine. It's that we never actively encoded what we were learning in the first place, because passive exposure does not stick. You have to do something with it if you want to remember it. And that, I think, is fascinating, because she talks about the architecture of you get your flashcards. When's the last time you ever used a flashcard when you wanted to remember something?
Not that long ago, to be honest, but remember, I lead trainings all the time.
For kids, yeah.
And adults.
And for adults,
I lead symposiums for art and drama teachers, and so I try to be off book for those. And yes, I've learned from school, and it's still to this day, I'm a very visual rememberer.
Yeah.
I have to write it down. So I write my little note cards in bullet form, and I see myself writing them down, and then my hand hurts, but then I can soak it in. Yeah. But
it's so good.
To your point, it's very intentional.
It's very intentional. You have to do something with information for it to move from working memory to long-term storage. And inconsistency, sometimes it'll encode, sometimes it won't, right? That's just how the brain works. And so that is super important. If you were to have to answer, how long do you feel like your working memory lasts? You see something, you're meant to remember it, you think you're going to remember it, but you don't do anything with it. You think, oh, I'll write that down when I get home, for example, and you're in the car. How long do you think you have? What is that window to remember that thing before you can write it down and do something with it?
And I purposefully said to myself, I need to remember this.
Yeah.
Pretty long time. Let's say and I didn't write anything down on my hand.
Right.
Ooh.
That's encoding.
It.
That's cheating.
That's cheating. So I'm just thinking I have to remember this, and then I go on. Depends on what it is, but probably not that long. I'm going to say 2 hours if I'm lucky.
Okay. You're off by a significant factor. The answer is 60 seconds.
What? I'm not a goldfish. I don't like how I said that, but I'm going to stand by it. Wait a minute.
We are all
seconds.
goldfish. Yeah. That is the reliable window of working memory before it gets purged and other stuff is going to come in. Other stuff, like you're in the car, you think of a thing, I better remember that, and then there's a funky stop sign that's tilted, and you're like, well, that's interesting, and that other thing is gone.
You know what? I mean, I'm discounting the fact that I showed my cards and saying, and I'm not allowed to write it down. I write things down
100%
the time. And I know what sign it is. I think did I tell you about the sign that's on the 405 right now?
Is it a crooked sign?
No, it's not a crooked sign, but it says it's carpool lane closed, but one of the L's is burnt out. And it's been that way for a week. It's carpool lane.
But see,
And
that is
and every time
fantastical.
I
That
go,
encodes.
oh no, the carpool lane's closed. What if the car's going to go potty? And then I forget to take like insulin or something. Yes, I understand the risks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that interesting, though? Because carpool lane is novel. It's interesting. It is
Right.
self-encoding. Like, that's a thing you'll remember because you thought it was funny. And that is a
Right.
new chemical relationship with that sign in the real world that allows you to recall it easily. And
pick up pills on way home now is gone because that
Gone.
wasn't interesting or funny.
Exactly. This reframed everything for me because I am someone who, like, I've got a lot going on and I add things I live on my work system, my task list. And if it's not on the task list, it won't get done. And because I'll just forget about it. And I would look at that as like a moral failure. But in fact, the system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. Right? The system is doing what it's designed to do. I'm remembering survival critical stuff, and I'm relying on this external system to help me get my work done. And that's what's supposed to happen. It's just the way we're built. And so what I think back on is the shame-loaded statements of things like, if you really cared, you would have remembered. Well, screw you. I do care, and I didn't remember. Those two things can exist in the same sentence. And biologically, we have to understand that about each other. And I think that's important. That's why I'm saying it. I'm finished. Your comments. I have more, but I'm finished with that.
There's a lot of grace there and understanding, which I always appreciate, instead of just assuming that I'm declining.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I do think that maybe the answer based on that is somehow, how do we convince ourselves that a forgotten errand will kill us? Like we're being hunted by the dry cleaning that we forgot to pick up. That's what we need.
That's what we need.
I forgot to get the whole milk, and now there's like a time bomb inside of my brain. Okay, go ahead.
But see, there are these two things, right? These two things. One is memory's doing what it needs to do. You're doing fine. Sometimes you forget stuff, and that's how the system's supposed to work. Use a system. And we carry a lot of shame about it because we think, well, if my memory were any good, I wouldn't need a system. Do you know what? Your memory's fine. You need a system, just like when you take your glasses off, you can't see very well. Your glasses are an accommodation for your eyeballs. Your system is an accommodation for your brain. It's the same thing, which does not at all discount the need to do physical exercise to activate your BDNF and to keep your brain spongy and try to learn new things, which gets us to Dr. Robert Bjork.
Finally.
I know you've been waiting for Bobby B.
Yeah.
Yep. He did research on desirable difficulties that shows when learning is hard, right? When you're doing something that you have to struggle with to encode, you build substantially longer and stronger retention than when it comes easily.
It's like building muscles. I get it.
The struggle is not a sign that you are bad at learning. The struggle is the learning. That's the point. Okay, so I have an example, and I know I've talked about this as an aside, but before with you, but I'm very proud of it, and I'm like a third grader who just came home from craft day, and so I'm going to share it.
Okay.
I'm as I said, I'm in my 50s, and there is a thing I have in my life that I've never tried, but I fantasize about it, and that is woodworking, specifically the lathe.
Wait a minute, though. What about this bowl I heard so much about last episode?
You are right here. You're right.
Oh,
you're right.
We get to see the bowl?
You get to see the bowl. If
This
you're
is
on
the
the
bowl
live
you
stream, if you're a
made?
member,
Avid listeners from last episode, Pete talked about how his next door neighbor takes a bunch of pills and is really good at woodworking, and he's glad that he's still alive because he got to use a lathe, and no one knows what a lathe is.
I am so glad that some of that story encoded in your memory.
Yeah.
Maybe not all of it, not the elegant parts, but enough. Okay,
I got to the bowl.
He showed me how a lathe works, and a lathe is a device that spins very, very fast. You put a block of wood on a spindle, and it has tied to this engine, and it turns and spins really, 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 really fast. And so you take this very sharp tool, and you put it against a riser bar of steel, and you rest it there and push slowly into the wood. And as the wood spins, it shaves off pieces of the wood so that you can make shapes.
That's adjacent to like what you do with pottery. If it spins,
It is exactly. It's pottery for wood.
You're putting pressure on it. Okay, got it.
And then you turn it, and you put the little stand on the lateral edge, and then you can drill inside of it with the same tool. So you can do things like make a bowl, Tom.
Peter. Oh
I'm
my
showing
gosh, that's
Tom
beautiful.
the bowl.
And for people that are not on the live stream, Pete promises to take a picture. He's going to remember and write that he's going to take a picture and put it in the show notes.
I edit the show, so this is my memory. You're going to tell me again.
Good point.
Later to do this.
Oh, it's beautiful.
This is my bowl. What do you think?
It's really fancy. I don't know, because I made a bowl in shop class and I still have splinters from it. So I don't know what I was expecting, but that is absolutely beautiful. And I know exactly what I want to put in it, but let's get to that at the end.
Okay. I am very excited about it because this was the first time that I'd ever done it, and I am aware that this is the worst bowl I will ever make, and I am still very proud of it because it was my first. And I learned an incredible new skill that I adore, and I can't wait to do it again. And it took me a long time to figure out the musculoskeletal stuff required to actually do this. But now I kind of can't stop thinking about it. Learned a new thing, internalized it. And, every time I came back to the lathe, it was a little bit easier. And it's just awesome, right? You can't fake your way through it or you break stuff, including your fingers, right? You just have to learn it. And the machine doesn't care about charm or credentials or anything like that. It just is there to do this one thing that you have to learn how to do with your full attention. And that is neurologically the most ideal condition for adult learning is throw yourself in and put yourself in a position where you have to give your full attention. And adults, I think, increasingly avoid this. We self-select into things we're already competent at because competence feels like intelligence, right? It feels like, being a beginner at 50 feels like a regression. And we don't like that. We're not comfortable. The brain does not see it that way. The brain sees this as a learning opportunity that hasn't existed in years. And I'm very, very happy with it. So, when was the last time, Tom, that you put yourself in a genuinely incompetent position on purpose?
Fully incompetent? I'm sure.
Made you feel like a complete beginner.
It's been a while, and I've wanted to start trying to learn how to play the piano. I desperately want to learn how to speak Spanish. I have done no work towards any of those things. Yeah. Because for that exact same reason is I want to have achieved. And it feels learning to play the piano or learning how to speak Spanish, unfortunately, and maybe it's because I'm still falling into this things are harder when you're an adult because your brain doesn't work fallacy, is because I look at that the same way I look at like starting Breaking Bad. I want to do it. Everyone tells me it's going to be great, but it just seems like way too much work and time. It seems insurmountable. That's why I've been on season 1, episode 2 of Breaking Bad for the last 10 years.
Well, now think of it as a learning exercise and make yourself memorize every episode of Breaking Bad.
Right. Yeah, that's not going to be great.
I think that's the point. It's that reactivation of these neurons. I got a mutual friend of the show, Kyle Olson, who's a playwright, and he challenged a bunch of us to a 10-page, 12-hour play writing competition where he gave us a prompt and a couple of required elements, and we have to write 10 to 12 pages of a play, 10 minutes of play.
Wow.
And write that. And I haven't written a play in 33 years. Since I was writing in college to write stage plays, and reactivating those muscles. Not only it's hard, of course, but it's also incredibly illuminating. And back to Daniela Caridi, she said that she described an experiment where a woman with essentially no short-term memory, right? She had no working memory. She could not build new long-term memories because short-term memory becomes long-term memory as it encodes.
The reverse Muriel Hemingway is what we call it.
Yeah, right. So she would flinch every time researchers tried to shake her hand because they had been using a buzzer trick handshake on her for 6 days, and they essentially taught her physiologically to shirk her hand back when even though she didn't remember it. She didn't remember a handshake day over day over day, but her body, some of her cells somewhere did remember and encoded that experience, even though it skipped her essentially executive functioning area. So I think that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And so I think we can reactivate long dormant skills. We owe it to our brains. We owe it to ourselves to plant ourselves in the right garden. And
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of planting of gardens, and this is a podcast about getting older, dealing with adulting and all of that, going back to your beautiful, beautiful bowl, which again, you're going to remember to put. How hard is it for you to print, whether it's the lathe or using something else, to put words on the side of it? If you wanted to like put a name it.
Like blueberries on the side?
Something like that. Well, because I was wondering, how hard is it to do an apostrophe? Because what I would suggest is the first line is Pete's, P-E-T-E apostrophe S, right? And then right under that, how hard is it to imprint the word ashes? Because I have an idea. I have an idea for your bowl, and I think it's going to save you some money.
And underneath in a little asterisk footnote is no lid, don't sneeze. I wonder how hard that is.
And then there's the tale of the two bank robbers and their perfectly orchestrated crime spree that was sadly undone by one crucial element: fruit juice. Acquiring new knowledge and learning new skills can be challenging as an adult, and popular cognitive biases can hamper one's ability to succeed in certain endeavors. But sometimes you just have to believe in yourself. You can do anything. That was the belief of friends and nascent bank robbers-to-be Clifton Johnson and MacArthur Wheeler, whom, in early 1995, robbed two different bank branches in Pittsburgh. The first branch, Mellon Bank in Allegheny County, was held up by the pair at 2:47 p.m., where they used a semi-automatic handgun to steal just over $5,000 from the teller. They later stole a similar amount, also at gunpoint, from a Fidelity Savings Bank in Brighton Heights. Although the friends had planned the robberies meticulously and escaped each bank without being apprehended, somehow the authorities showed up on Johnson's front porch just 5 days later, arresting him and later his accomplice that year. And how had the police been able to identify this crack crime team so quickly? Well, and we're going out on a limb here, but it might be because neither of the men with the weapons bothered disguising their faces at all. Actually, that's not entirely true. After learning that lemon juice can be used as invisible ink, Johnson convinced Wheeler that if they squirted lemon juice onto their faces, they wouldn't show up in any of the bank's security surveillance. Thus, any type of mask wouldn't be needed. After experimenting by dousing his own face in lemon juice and taking a self-portrait with a Polaroid camera wherein he did not show up in the photo, both men were convinced. Detectives later surmised that because the lemon juice stung his eyes so badly, Johnson had accidentally pointed the camera away from his own head. To wit, in the widely shared bank surveillance videos of the two robbers, you can see both men squinting through the citrus juice burning their eyes during the crimes. Both men were eventually locked up for a total of 29 years between them, with Wheeler reportedly yelling while being arrested, quote, "But I wore the lemon juice. I wore the lemon juice." This failed attempt at learning and mastering a new crime as an adult went down in history, as it led psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger to create the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias wherein, quote, "people who have limited knowledge in an area also tend to significantly overestimate the amount of knowledge they have because their lack of knowledge also prevents them from understanding the full scope of what knowledge is possible," end quote. In other words, as Dunning later put it, quote, "if Wheeler was too stupid to be a bank robber, perhaps he was also too stupid to know that he was too stupid to be a bank robber. That is, his stupidity protected him from an awareness of his own stupidity." End quote. Learning as an adult can be hard, but sometimes learning you haven't learned a thing can be the hardest lesson of all. Want to give up some of your hard-earned cash to two guys who barely know what they're talking about? Then put your hands up in the air, because this is a robbery of savings. What? That's right. Open the time-release vaults in your hearts and become a Feeling Friend today. For the criminally low price of $35 for the entire season, you can steal early access to each episode, bonus content included with all of that early access, special member-only episodes, secret access to our gang's Discord channel, and so much more. Where's the meetup after you grab the loot out of your wallet? The gang's meeting over at allthefeelings.fun right now. So that's where you should go to help Al Capete and Tommy Gunn keep this crime ring out of the podcast slammer. Once again, to support the show, please speed over to allthefeelings.fun and become a Feeling Friend today. And now, back to the
show. Subset 2.
Get yourself some hobbies.
Pete, it's my turn. It's my segment now. It's my turn. Are you ready?
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. It's the only thing I want. It's yours.
Guess what? It's going to start with a question, as so many things often do. How do you, without looking it up, how do you define a hobby?
Something that I do for fun, but not money.
Very good. Okay, that's excellent.
Okay.
Because here's two different definitions. And I think you hit it out of the park. Cambridge Dictionary says it's an activity that you do for pleasure when you are not working.
Okay.
Fair enough. Merriam-Webster says it's a pursuit outside of one's regular occupation, engaged in especially for relaxation.
Okay.
I see a small
Have I introduced my bowl to you yet?
Oh my God, you're hobbying all over the place. I see a small difference between those two definitions, and I like yours better.
Okay.
It involves the part about especially for relaxation. I don't like that part. But I do think that that's how a lot of people think about hobbies. I don't. It makes hobbies for me, and I want your opinion on this, it makes hobbies seem just frivolous or just a coping or calming mechanism. I think hobbies are more important than that. And certain hobbies work so well because as hobbies, they are actually challenging and sometimes extremely frustrating by definition. Enjoyment, yes. Constant relaxation, no. We will come back to that in a second.
Okay.
Here's what I wanted to bring up. The social element of hobbying. At some point, when becoming an adult, and my friends were coming adults around me, some of my friends started casually mentioning something sort of offhand that became a little disconcerting to me. And I bring this up, Pete, because I want to see if it's ever happened to you.
Okay.
As has come up many times over the podcast, you could say that I'm an adult man who has a lot of hobbies. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I am a voracious reader, both of novels and graphic novels. I love live theater and movies. I play video games. I host Zoom game room nights for friends across the country. I meet with friends to solve murder mysteries over dinner. Some of those mysteries I ended up writing because I didn't like the original drafts. The list goes on. But at some point, and we're just going to take video games, but at some point, certain friends of mine started, and I don't think that they were trying to be mean, but started throwing away comments like, man, I wish I could still play video games, but I just don't have any time.
Oh.
Or I'm jealous that you find so much time in the day to do that kind of stuff.
That makes me mad and sad.
Yeah, they don't sound jealous.
No.
I mean, to me, they sound judgmental.
Yeah.
Like they're saying, oh, to have such empty time in one life to engage in such folly.
Oh, Poloy.
Oh my goodness. Just roll around with the paws. Yeah, I don't know. I do not believe that it was malicious ever, but it made me feel weird and kind of bad. As
I think it should. That does feel weird.
Has no one ever, and these are people that, and part of what I should say is part of this, these are people that used to play video games and then do not now. So they phased out of it.
So they are also jealous.
Maybe. Has anyone ever said anything like that to you? Or is this just, it's not like this is a friend-wide epidemic, but just I've noticed it when it started happening. I accidentally took it personally. My anxiety took it personally.
I totally get that. And I don't think you're wrong. I think it's, I don't think you're obtuse
right.
or making things up. Right. I think this is, I think it's a real thing. And I think it's a sign that those people need hobbies to remember what it's like to have more time. And this is not a judgment against how you use your time, but a judgment against how they use theirs. And that is a real reflexive sadness. And I say that as someone who has, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this, has turned his hobbies into his career and has forgotten largely what it means to have hobbies.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but that's very interesting. There is a part where I'm going to punt back to you, and I want you to talk about how a hobby of recording turned into something else entirely, another beast. I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree. I mean, it helped me to, when I got over my anxiety about it, it helped me to reframe their statement in my own mind and imagining them saying instead, I have time to do any of those things. I just chose different priorities. And those priorities can be kids or marriage or social media time instead of reading books at night or going to your kid's soccer game. Those are all valid and wonderful priorities. Maybe not the social media one, in my opinion, but all of the rest of those are absolutely wonderful. But I don't think that they outrank my choices. They're just different. You went a different life path. And I think that my choice to have hobbies is very important. And do you know who agrees with me, Pete?
Dunning-Kruger. Wait, those bank robbers. No.
Nope.
I don't, me?
These are two new people. It's a fancy couple called Mr. and Mrs. Goddamn Science. Woo! Let's go. I promise I am not going to science all over myself. This is not a science podcast, but let's just point out a few quick things. 2022 study concluded that working long hours in full-time jobs led to a certain amount of depression in working adults, of course, but that having enjoyable hobbies was the quickest way to mitigate these factors. That's other than family time. That's other than medication. That's other than working less hours. Having enjoyable hobbies cut that right in half, like a lathe. I still don't know what a lathe is. And when respondents felt that they were too exhausted to enjoy leisure time, reported feeling much happier after sort of forcing themselves to engage in a hobby, in part because the reward center in your brain lights up. Your brain is thanking you for your recreation in a lot of the ways that you just talked about in your segment.
Yeah.
And one more, in Nature magazine, a study in 2023 examined data of more than 93,000 older adults, go for it, Nature magazine, and found that respondents with hobbies self-reported higher health, happiness, and life satisfaction. Of course, you can see all this stuff coming, but it is easy to get lost.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask you about your hobbiness of it all, because I know, for instance, I thought you were going to want to talk about like being in an active D&D community, something that I am still desperately jealous about and have sort of been a mid player in because your DM throws pity at me. But do you want to talk about what happens when a hobby becomes overwhelming? I assume you're talking about being your podcast network. Okay.
Yeah, this is a sidebar, I guess, right? That I I mean it was 2005 and I started a hobby podcast inside my company at the time, and I was, flying all over the place. I was working for an international company, and that was for all intents and purposes. I mean, that was my career. That was it. That was what I was going to do with my life, and I was going to keep wearing a tie every day and all that such and so. And then I had kids, and I was podcasting at the time, and discovered that I had the skills and the equipment, frankly, and at the right time in the right place to actually help other people do this for money. And then I had no hobby anymore. And that has only increased in demand and of my time to the point where I am struggling now with this hobby turned career having become a monster that I'm struggling to get out from under at all times, and to rediscover that I actually have the freedom to make the choice to have agency, right, and not just grit. And that sounds like such a weird thing of position of privilege to be able to just say, oh, I had hobbies and now it's business, and oh, I'm so sorry. So this is the smallest violin is playing for you.
I don't think it is out of. I mean, you built something, but with that comes responsibility, Spider-Man. Now, what have you replaced it with other hobbies, or has it, other than things like D&D, is part of the problem that other hobbies and things are being edged out?
Yeah, It's other things are edged out, right? That any free time, any time that I might have had on a weekend, for example, is gone. Right.
You've talked about that in
it's
older episodes.
so small. Yeah.
That
it's just like,
you use weekends sometimes to, when I was hoping you were unplugging, you're actually catching up.
Yeah.
Which was disappointing to hear.
Well, and unsustainable, right? So this is why I wasn't in charge of this part of our conversation today, because I am case example number one of somebody who does not have a healthy relationship with my own hobbies. I love things like, I love media. I love playing video games. I love D&D. I love all those things. And the structure around them is so rigorous. Like I don't think you can count it as a hobby that I play D&D with a group of people that I love very dearly once every 4 to 6 weeks, right? That doesn't seem like a hobby, but I don't know how you define it.
I think it's up to you to define it. If it's not enough, then you need to add some more stuff to it. Maybe not just more D&D, but get back on your horse, Red Dead Redemption 2. You need to find something else.
Yeah.
Well, it is because you brought up the idea of that hobbies can seem to backfire.
Yeah.
Or eat you alive. Remember in the beginning, I talked about how I believe that hobbies shouldn't just be relaxing. That they can be frustrating or exhausting, and still that is part of the thing. Can I tell you about one of my favorite hobbies that I've ever done in my entire life? And I promise I will speed through this. And this is something that I've talked about. You've seen parts of this because parts of it are up on my evidence wall, the fake evidence wall that I made. During the pandemic, have I ever mentioned the pandemic before? Anyways. I joined something. I was looking for stuff to do, and I joined something called the Mysterious Package Company.
Yes.
Have we talked about this? Yes. Okay.
We have talked
pretty
about
much. These are high-crafted mysteries involving a lot of actual artifacts and real-world ephemera, where you get thrust into a mystery to try and solve. And I tried out what was then called the King in Yellow experience. Now it's called Hastur, Hastaur, if you're interested in this kind of thing. Here's the real short version. I signed up for this thing. It was kind of expensive, but I was like, I'm not spending money on anything else. It's the pandemic. Let's see. I kind of forgot about it. Then all of a sudden, I received a letter in the mail from a theater company containing a ticket that I had bought for a play. But the ticket was late, and I missed the performance. Of course, I had never bought the ticket, nor heard of the play, but it had my name all over it. And then I received a nailed-together wooden crate that I had to open by hammer, with a note saying that they found my belongings under the seat in the theater after the performance, and they wanted to apologize for the horrific events that had occurred during the performance. The police are still investigating. What ended up was a crate, and this is not for everybody, but boy, oh boy, was this for me.
Yeah, that tickles you in a very special way, I'm sure.
Yes. What ended up, it was a crate filled with remarkably realistic newspaper articles, small runes, clay idols that dissolved in water, revealing clues, old maps, desperate cries for help across centuries. And what had happened in the theater involved a Lovecraftian type of cosmic horror that killed the entire audience. And it was up to me to stop it from happening again. And I was obsessed. Now, the reason I'm telling this story is because it was legitimately difficult. I didn't have any partners. These are built to have like a team of 2 to 3 people. And I didn't have anyone I could call. And the website had no hints. So I had it spread out for weeks across my living room table and floor. And I would spend like an hour on it or 2 hours every day. And I went down rabbit holes that didn't pan out. A ton of the artifacts from the game made it. Oh, I already said that. And after a while, I just hit a brick wall. And there's no hint system, as I said. And it was really frustrating.
Yeah.
It was still engaging, but I'm like, this is the marker of like maybe when you walk away from a hobby, if it's not bringing you joy. But it really lit up so many different parts of my brain. So I just left it out. And I just sort of kept looking at it from different directions and trying to have paradigm shifts. And then when I finally, and I'm going to say this really quick so it's not a spoiler, cracked the coded parchments which were hiding solar patterns inside their descriptions that I used to map out the descent of a meteor in ancient times, and that unlocked something else and something else and something else. The excitement was palpable. I almost pooped everybody's pants. I was in nerd heaven, and when I finally solved it, I felt so proud and elated and mentally exhausted and triumphant. That's the sign of a frustrating but rewarding hobby.
Yeah.
And some people like birding. Now, anyways, to end this segment, one of the things that people that listen to this podcast might say is, I'm an adult with not a lot of free time. And you know what's really tough is discovering a hobby that might be a good fit for me. There's not a hobby tree. I get it. I have found some advice across the internet that have been given out to maybe help out. Would you like to hear them, Pete?
Yes, God, please.
Okay. Take a look at like what you like to watch in your free time. If you veg out and watch TV, there's no shame in that at all. But notice what you're watching. Do you watch a lot of DIY home improvement shows? Maybe you want to get into crafting or woodworking like you did. Do you like baking or cooking shows? Maybe you want to take an online or in-person cooking class and see how it goes. You love movies with beautiful photography? Well, you can go on YouTube and start learning the fundamentals of photography. Get a cheap camera. YouTube, as we've talked about ad nauseum, is filled with cheap ways to get into different kind of hobbies. If you like true crime, maybe you want to try to murder someone. There's so many no, but if you like true crime, as I said, there are so many home mystery boxes, escape room boxes. There's hundreds of these now. Like,
you could maybe go down to your local precinct and ask to be allowed to try to solve some cold cases.
Yeah, just be like, can I go in that back room? And when they say no, you solve how to get into that
how
room.
to get into that room.
Yeah. And then they're going to put you in your own escape room and you have to figure out how to get out.
You won't.
One other thing, and I like, because you can look all this up. So I'm not going to go through the huge list because these are things that you can look up on your own. But I like this one. Remember what you used to like. Yeah. When you were younger and you had more time, what did you dig? Did you like to draw? Did you like to make up stories or solve puzzles?
Yeah.
Maybe try revisiting some of those things. There are adult versions of all of that stuff. Like for a while when I was having trouble, my anxiety was particularly bad. I got briefly but importantly into adult coloring books where they're not adult like coloring books after dark. They're just very intricate things to color in, and you could really get obsessed with it. And just that's a very relaxing zone out kind of way. So if you're looking for that, there's adult versions of everything. So why not just remember what you like to watch right now and you're not actively involved in, and what did you used to like, and give it a try. And maybe you can find something.
What does it say that one of my favorite shows right now is Shrinking? That all I want to do is watch other people in therapy.
That's interesting. How many therapists do you currently have? If your hobby was adding therapists,
that may be a maladaptive adjustment to hobbying. You're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. This week's tune is The Lives of the Educated by Van Stee. Coming up next week, Tom, what are we doing next week?
We got a grab bag. We are talking, well, I'll say what I'm talking about. You say what you're talking about, deal? I'm talking about the joys of being an adult and pet ownership, and the ownership of pets that also are becoming adults. As you're both becoming adults and both falling asleep in the same sunbeam, and sometimes the sunbeam, there's not enough room for both of you. We're going to talk about all of those things. Pet ownership as an adult, what it means, and what kind of beauty and challenges await you. Pete?
And I'm talking about, social media as an adult.
The opposite of a pet. The opposite of owning a pet for me.
He's absolutely the opposite. And so we're going to talk about it because in some capacity, many of us are still somehow invested in these profiles that we invented when social media started. And now we have to reckon with who we are and those profiles. So there you go. We're going to try and do that next week. You're welcome.
Some would say it's a humdinger of an episode already. I'm excited. Until then, I am Tommy Metz III.
And I'm Pete Wright. Thank you for downloading. We'll see you right back here next week on All the Feelings, still adulting.